Hello and welcome to Bourbon Forage Fishing. I'm Ryan, your host. I hope you're doing well. We are going to be talking about today the whiskey market, bourbon market, and what we can see in the foreseeable future if we're going to be seeing some contractions in the market. As you all have probably known, whiskey and bourbon markets have exploded over the past decade. Here is a chart. This is 2022 here. This is personal opinion. About a year ago, I started talking with my buddies and noticing liquor stores, whiskey, liquor, not emptying off the shelves as fast. And my buddies and I agreed that we would be seeing a slowdown in the whiskey bourbon market. About 5 or 6 months ago, one of my local liquor stores found out they're having layoffs. Sales were down. Layoffs were coming, right? So they laid off several staff members and cut hours. And I've heard this from a lot of people on the retail side. The overall sales are coming down a bit. Now on the production side, as we know, a lot of big companies and craft distillers are pumping out huge rick houses, building up, getting bigger, and waiting in hopes that the market's going to continue to increase. So they are banking on exponential growth in whiskey and bourbon. Is that going to happen? And we'll see. So I just did a quick Google search about 6 months back. Want to look at what is the market doing, what's happening. The first thing I want to point to your attention is Statistica. As you can see, for the past decade, you've had really consistent, nice growth. This is the sales in volumes of liter of cases. So we don't have to factor inflation here. So we're not doing with dollars. We're doing sales in volume. You can see some of these years have huge upticks in sales per year. Starting back, when is that? Starting back 2012, right? We're seeing really nice upticks each and every year. Except right here, this is 2022. The increase in sales is not anything like it has been in the past decade. It is my personal opinion that the whiskey boom is about to slow down. I don't know if it's going to bust, but it's going to slow down. So I'm going to point out some articles here. We'll go through them and take a look. Why the American whiskey industry is freaking out. This is in November of 23. The 5.1 whiskey industry is big business. 1.3 billion of it is shipped abroad, okay? If you guys don't know, the EU, the largest export market for the American whiskey, is set to post a 50% tariff on imports of liquid gold next year. Spirit industry advocates say that would be a devastating blow to a growth in the U.S. economy, right? So it's possible we're going to be seeing huge tariffs in the EU, which are going to slow whiskey exports. I'm not the only one that thinks the bust is up, the bust is here. The boom is going to slow, or we're going to have a bust. This article here draws into question that. I'm not going to read the whole damn thing, obviously. Have we reached peak bourbon? We also have this article. Okay, besides going through the numbers, both of these articles sort of point out that once someone gets into bourbon or gets into whiskey, it's like Pokemon, you got to catch them all, right? You have to catch them all. It's just the way it is. When people get into the hobby, eventually they catch all the whiskeys. They try them all. Let's say this takes a year, maybe it takes 2 years. They have now filtered through their mind what whiskeys they're going to buy again and which whiskeys they're not going to buy again. And so if you multiply this over tens of thousands of people that got into the bourbon in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, 2 years even, if you multiply that over thousands and tens of thousands of people, those people who had a wide berth of purchasing items, interests, have now narrowed and focused their interests and their capital into certain areas, certain bottles, certain producers, right? Like when I first started, I was buying Woodinville and I even tried Jim Beam. I'd try all kinds of things, right? Evan Williams. These are things I would never dream to purchase anymore, right? I pretty much only buy high-end stuff, except for maybe Elijah Craig, barrel proof, is the only non-allocated thing I think I could interest in buying. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that everybody's going to have their list of things they like, and once they get into the hobby, and once they put a couple years under their belt, they're going to know what it is they want, and they're going to be laser focused on that. And basically, these articles are pointing that out, that you're going to have a concentrated focus of market as opposed to this wide purchasing of, all the Pokemon. A lot of people have caught all their Pokemon now, and they're interested in specific bottles. This is December 2023. Jack Daniels needs a drink. Whiskey sales are down for Jack Daniels, right? Brown Forman, the maker of several spirits, said that Jack Daniels fill 1% the first half of the current fiscal year, right? That's 2% total. Woodford Reserve, 3% fall. Old Forester, 5% fall. And if we go through, we can see that one of DC's first distilleries is closing. So these are the first distilleries. These aren't new distilleries. These are old ones. One of 8 distilling in the Ivy City is ceasing production, right? So, and there's another article I didn't put up, but it's talking about how all these distilleries in DC are going under. Sacramento area distillery is closing after more than a decade, right? That's an established distillery. A decade? Gone. Texas distillery selling for $1 million. And if you look at some of the other indicators, luxury investment market for whiskey continues to fall. So you're having, whiskey is definitely a luxury item. You're seeing sales in the secondary market falling. I made a video previous to this. And you're seeing investment whiskey falling. And NGP closure. This doesn't mean a whole lot because I believe NGP is building new distilleries, right? Even YouTubers have noticed, right? Drums and Drums, great channel, is talking about Barrel Craft bought this building just a few years ago, and they now have it up for sale. So they know something is going on with bourbon. Barrel Craft Spirits. Are they going under? Are they cutting back? What have they got going on, right? So, and of course, Fred Mimic is in his video, is the bourbon boom over? He talks about some of the points I went over and goes into more detail about some of the others. So just to show you how absurd the the whiskey boom has become. See, I think all economies need a boom and a bust. And this is a cycle that has to happen just like the tides of the ocean. It's healthy. It's a healthy thing because in a boom cycle like we have now, you'll have something like, look at this, 2,600 distillers. 2 decades ago, we had 35, right? The U.S. does not need 2,600 distillers. Most of those 2,600 distillers are making garbage whiskey and bourbon. Half, probably. A quarter. Another quarter or 20% is making okay whiskey, okay bourbon. The market is oversaturated with distillers, obviously. 2,600 is preposterous. So I think in this bust cycle we're going to go through, kind of depends on what the overall economy does. That's obviously going to influence the whiskey market, but you're going to see some changes, and I'm going to talk about those changes and my predictions on what we're going to see here coming up shortly. All right, my predictions for the whiskey boom and bust cycle. Historically, I believe in the 1890s, turn of the century, there was a whiskey boom and bust. You also had a depopularization of whiskey, I think in the 60s and 70s during the hippie generation. It was sort of seen as uncool. It's like old guy stuff, grandpa shit. So whiskey is trendy, it goes up in and out of popularity historically. It has for time millennial and will continue to. It's had a solid 10 to 12 year run now. I wouldn't be surprised, my prediction here, if we saw a slight decrease in its popularity and consumption. I believe the big producers, the big distillers, know what they're doing and have hedged against falling sales, etc. For example, I know Buffalo Trace has put themselves in a nice position. They did a $1.2 billion expansion, new rick houses, new fermenters, da-da-da-da-da. They did that all paid for cash, no debt whatsoever, okay? So even if they have to cut their distillation process, let's say they only use the old distillers, they don't even use the new ones here in 2 or 3 years, well, they're going to be fine because they don't have any debt associated with it. And the rick houses, they can age that stuff into kingdom come, right? Theoretically, if people aren't buying whiskey, they can age Stag Junior into Stag Senior. And trust me, people will buy Stag Senior, right? Stag Junior, BTAC, Pappy Van Winkle, Parker's Heritage, these very high-end things, certain high-end Russell things, these things are will forever be purchased, right? Those things you don't have to worry about not being purchased. I'm assuming the other larger companies, Heaven Hill, MGP, that are making these big expansions are also doing it with cash. They're not taking on debt. And I think if you do see a decrease or a bust in sales, all these bigger companies are going to be totally fine. They're going to be totally fine. Who knows? Maybe you'll see one of their distillers shut down, or one of their locations shut down of 3 or 4. But like I said, I think they're going to be totally fine. I think where the real bloodbath is going to be in these small craft distillers. Now, most of these small new craft, these new distillers aren't very good, right? So they weren't going to last a long time anyways. So they're going to get the hurt put on them here if whiskey sales come down. A lot of these distilleries, boy, I don't even know. I think it's just rich guys with too much money that are bored and they've got buddies that want to try distilling or something. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. But a lot of the new distillers just aren't good, man. Any company that has debt, that is leveraged with debt, they are absolutely fudged. They're gonna be, it's over for them, right? So companies that are leveraged, obviously heavily leveraged, or even I think moderately leveraged, I think you probably look at those ones going under. New craft distillers which aren't established, which don't stand out as something special or spectacular, a lot of those are going to go under. I think those are the companies, the distillers to look out for going under when we have a whiskey bust, if we do. Again, this is just my opinion that we are. I'm just an armchair economist. What do I know? But that's just the way I see things going. If you like this content, if you like this, let me know down below. What do you think? Do you think we're going to be in a whiskey bourbon boom bust? We're going to go into a bust cycle? How far down are we going to go? 10%? Is it going to be a small correction? Or, maybe it's 2 or 3 years of 10% loss in sales. Are we looking at a serious bust? What do you think? Comments down below, please. I'm really interested what you guys think. Very curious. You've been watching Bourbon Forage Fishing. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe. Take care of yourself. Thanks.